Stop. Go to your kitchen, grab your salt. Now flip it over and read the ingredients. Salt, dextrose, calcium silicate, sodium bicarbonate, potassium iodide. Wait, dextrose? That's sugar. There is literally sugar in your salt. And that's just the beginning of what they're not telling you. Here's what most people think. Salt is salt. Sodium chloride. 2 ingredients, 1 product. Simple. Except it's not. I went to 3 different stores and bought every type of salt I could find. Table salt, iodized salt, sea salt, pink Himalayan salt, Celtic gray salt, fleur de sel, flaky Maldon salt, and one brand that literally calls itself real salt, which should already make you suspicious because what does that make everything else? I spent over $40 on salt, a mineral you can literally scrape off rocks. And when I started reading the labels, comparing prices per ounce, and digging into what's actually in these containers, I realized something that genuinely made me angry. The cheap salt isn't what you think. The expensive salt isn't what you think. And the entire salt aisle is designed to confuse you into spending more money for basically the same thing. Let me show you exactly what I mean. Let's start with the one everybody has. Morton iodized table salt. The one with the umbrella girl. You've had this in your kitchen your entire life. Your mom had it, your grandma had it. Flip it over. Ingredients: salt, calcium silicate, dextrose, potassium iodide. Let's break this down because it sounds way more complicated than salt should be. Calcium silicate. That's an anti-caking agent. It keeps your salt from clumping together. Why does salt clump? Because salt naturally absorbs moisture from the air. It's what salt does. So they add a chemical to stop salt from acting like salt. Dextrose, that is sugar, actual sugar, in your salt. Now before you panic, it's a tiny amount. You'd have to eat about 8.5 cups of salt to get a single gram of sugar. But here's why it's there, and this is the part they don't advertise. The dextrose stabilizes the potassium iodide. Without the sugar, the iodine breaks down and turns purple. Your salt would look violet. So they add sugar to keep your salt looking white. Think about that for a second. They're adding sugar to salt so that the chemical they added to the salt stays stable. We're already 2 layers deep into processing, and we haven't even gotten to the actual salt yet. Potassium iodide. This is the iodine. And here's the thing, this one actually has a good reason behind it. Back in the 1920s, huge parts of the northern United States had a massive goiter problem. Swollen necks everywhere. The goiter belt, they literally called it, iodine deficiency. So in 1924, Morton started adding iodine to salt, and it essentially solved the problem almost overnight. That was genuinely a public health win. But here's the scary part. Your table salt is 99.5% sodium chloride. Everything else has been stripped out. All the trace minerals that naturally occur in salt, gone, processed out. Then they add chemicals back in to fix the problems that the processing created. You're not eating salt. You're eating a manufactured product that used to be salt. But here's where it gets really interesting. Because the solution that most people switch to is actually worse and way more expensive. Let's talk about the pink salt. You've seen it everywhere. In the fancy grinder at the grocery store, in health food shops, on TikTok, where people are literally dissolving it in water and drinking it as a weight loss trick. Influencers swearing it has 84 trace minerals that will change your life. Here's what they're not telling you. Pink Himalayan salt is roughly 87% sodium chloride. The remaining 13%? Trace minerals. Sounds impressive until you look at what those trace minerals actually are. A study published in the journal Nutrients analyzed the mineral content of commercially available pink salts. They found trace amounts of calcium, potassium, magnesium. Great, right? Except the amounts are so microscopically small that you'd have to eat dangerous, life-threatening amounts of salt to get any nutritional benefit. We're talking tablespoons and tablespoons of salt per day just to get what you'd get from a single banana. And here's the part nobody talks about. That same study found that pink Himalayan salt also contains non-nutritive minerals like arsenic, cadmium, and lead. In small amounts, yes, but those minerals have zero established health benefit. Zero. At any dose, they are harmful. So what are you actually paying for? Let's do the math. Morton iodized table salt costs about 99 cents for 26 ounces. That's roughly 4 cents per ounce. Pink Himalayan salt? I found it ranging from $5 to $8 per 100 grams. At the high end, you're paying up to 20 times more. 20 times more. For salt that is nutritionally identical in any meaningful way, contains trace amounts of heavy metals, and doesn't even have iodine, the one genuinely useful additive. What if someone sold you a bottle of water for 20 times the normal price and told you it had 84 trace minerals? You'd call that a scam. But put it in a pretty pink crystal and suddenly it's a wellness product. The pink color, by the way, that's iron oxide, rust. The salt is pink because it has rust in it. I'm not making that up. If you're sitting there right now thinking, I had no idea about any of this, do me a favor and hit subscribe. I do this kind of deep dive every single week, exposing the stuff companies don't want you to know. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments, what salt are you using right now? I'm genuinely curious. Okay, so table salt is overprocessed and pink salt is overpriced. That leaves sea salt, the natural option, harvested from actual oceans, no processing, just pure, evaporated seawater. Sounds perfect, right? Not so fast. Here's the problem nobody in the salt industry wants you to think about. Where does sea salt come from? The ocean. What's in the ocean in 2026? Microplastics. A critical review published in 2025 looked at studies from 2015 to 2025 analyzing microplastic contamination in commercial salt. The findings? Sea salt consistently had higher levels of microplastic contamination than any other salt type. Rock salt and lake salt had less. Sea salt had the most, because it comes directly from ocean water that is contaminated with plastic particles. You're paying a premium for natural salt that comes with free microplastics. And the markup? Sea salt typically costs 3 to 5 times more than table salt. Maldon flaky sea salt, the one all the food influencers sprinkle dramatically with their fingers, that runs about $1.25 per ounce. Compare that to 4 cents per ounce for table salt. That's a 3,000% markup for salt from the ocean with plastic in it. Now I need to be fair here. The amount of microplastics in sea salt is small. You're probably getting more microplastics from your water bottle or food packaging. But the point is, you're paying more for a product marketed as natural and pure that is demonstrably less pure than the cheap stuff. The marketing is a lie. So if table salt is overprocessed, pink salt is overpriced, and sea salt has plastic in it, what are you actually supposed to buy? Here's what I'm telling my family. Now there's a whole category of salt brands that have built their entire identity around telling you that regular salt is fake. Redmond Real Salt. It's mined from an ancient seabed in Utah. They market it as unrefined and full of trace minerals and safe from modern pollutants. Because it's an ancient deposit, it predates modern ocean pollution. No microplastics, no industrial contamination. Sounds amazing, and honestly, it's actually not bad. The mineral profile is legitimate. The ancient seabed claim is real. The product is less processed than Morton's. But here's the thing, it costs roughly 10 to 15 times more than table salt. And the health benefits of those trace minerals? Same story as pink salt. The amounts are so small that you'd need to eat dangerous quantities to get meaningful nutrition from them. You're not buying better nutrition, you're buying a story, a really well-told story. And that story is worth about $8 a bag to the company. Celtic gray salt? Same thing. Fleur de sel from France? Same thing. These are real products with real differences in texture and taste. If you're a chef and you want a finishing salt with nice flaky crystals, go for it. I'm not going to pretend that Maldon on a steak doesn't taste different than Morton's out of the shaker. It does. But if you're buying it because you think it's healthier, you're paying a premium for marketing. Full stop. Here's the honest truth, and I know some of you aren't going to like this. The best salt depends entirely on what you're using it for and what you care about. If you care about health, iodized table salt is genuinely the most important salt you can buy. Iodine deficiency is still a real problem. The WHO estimates that about a third of the world's population doesn't get enough iodine. That cheap Morton's container with the umbrella girl is doing more for your health than any $15 bag of pink crystals. The additives are in tiny amounts and are recognized as safe. If you care about taste, get a finishing salt for the table and use cheap iodized salt for cooking. Nobody can taste the difference between salts when they're dissolved in pasta water or baked into bread. Use the fancy stuff where it matters, on top of finished food, and save your money everywhere else. If you care about avoiding additives, look for salt with the shortest ingredient list. Some brands sell pure iodized salt without anti-caking agents, or get a coarser salt that doesn't need anti-caking agents because the larger crystals don't clump as easily. If you care about microplastics, mine salts, either rock salt or ancient deposit salts like Redmond, will have lower microplastic contamination than sea salt. That's just science. Whether the difference matters to your health is still being studied. Here's what I would not do. Do not pay 20 times more for pink Himalayan salt because an influencer told you it has 84 minerals. Do not buy sea salt because you think natural means better. And do not skip iodized salt entirely because you're scared of additives. The salt industry has figured out something brilliant. They took a product that cost pennies to produce and created an entire luxury market around it by making you afraid of the cheap version. Pink salt, sea salt, Celtic salt, they're all just salt. The price difference is not nutrition, it's marketing. Your homework this week? Go check your salt, flip it over, read the ingredients, and calculate the price per ounce. Then compare it to what I just showed you. Bring a calculator to the store next time. Don't just grab the pretty package. If this made you look at your kitchen differently, subscribe and hit the bell. I'm posting new exposés every single week. And share this with someone who just spent $12 on a bag of pink salt. They need to see this. I'll see you in the next one.